Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank all of our witnesses for joining us today. It is clear from your testimony that consumer reporting agencies occupy a very unique space. They deal in consumer data, but they do not deal with consumers. Their customers are businesses. Their products are the data they gather about you and me and millions of other Americans. They have the power to affect people's lives in critical ways. They provide the reports that determine everything, from whether you can get a loan to whether you can obtain housing or even employment. And yet they put people at risk when they lack adequate data protection safeguards, like we saw with the Equifax breach, which impacted nearly 48 million consumers in 2017. In fact, last month in a hearing held by the Financial Services Committee, which I'm a member of, I asked the CEO of Equifax whether anyone on their leadership team was held accountable for this data breach. His response was, and I quote, "There was plenty of accountability. The entire leadership team in 2017 did not receive a bonus," unquote. This, as I'm sure you would agree, is an insult to the millions of consumers that were affected by the breach and continue to this day to struggle to bounce back after having their data compromised. So I want to touch on what options, if at all, consumers have in this market. You spoke to some of this, all of you, in your testimony, if you could elaborate, where clearly there is no accountability for CRAs when breaches like this happen. Director Clements, in the GAO report, you explained that consumers lack choices in the consumer reporting market. So if we could unpack that, just for the record, consumers are not voluntarily providing their data to CRAs. Businesses are not voluntarily providing their data to CRAs. Businesses are doing that, correct?
The consumer data ultimately is an input to the process, so you're correct.
Okay. And so consumers are never actively providing consent for our data to be provided to CRAs. Again, given your testimony, that's an accurate characterization, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if a constituent of mine is dissatisfied with Equifax's data protection practices, can he or she choose to remove their data to the competitors and only have Experian and TransUnion maintain their files?
No.
Okay. Well, what about leaving the consumer reporting market entirely? Could someone force the CRAs to delete their records?
The CFPB has told us that consumers have no legal right to remove their data from a CRA.
Okay. And so consumers do not voluntarily opt in to have their information shared to the CRAs, nor can they opt out. Instead, businesses are providing it, whether consumers want them to or not. And once the CRAs have the information, consumers are essentially locked out, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Litt. Okay, a couple more minutes left. Most other private businesses cannot avoid consumers the way CRAs can. Most businesses have to try to keep consumers happy or risk losing them to their competitors. But CRAs are different. Can consumers make decisions with their dollars that would incentivize CRAs to ensure that they protect sensitive data about their customers?
No, they have no say in the matter.
Without the pressure of market forces, is data security at CRAs a necessary area for government regulation?
Absolutely.
Back to you, Director Clements. The GAO report indicates that CFPB has identified credit reporting as a higher risk market for consumer harm. Can you explain why it made that determination?
I can't explain CFPB's logic. Our logic, or what we think CRA is a high-risk area. One is it serves an essential function in the marketplace and financial services industry. Second would be the large amount of sensitive information that is contained there. And then third, the fact that consumers have limited choice in this marketplace.
Thank you. So without consumer choice, CRAs lack the same market pressures as typical businesses to adequately protect consumer data. That is a market failure, and it reinforces the need for strong government rules to help ensure sufficient consumer data protection at CRAs. I thank you all for your testimony here today, your expert testimony, and look forward to working with all of my colleagues so that we can provide ample oversight and accountability for these CRAs, since clearly they can't be trusted to do that themselves. Thank you.